I will defend her.
Your Honor, I will defend her. The courtroom fell silent when her lawyer stood up, gathered his briefcase, and walked out. Samantha Mercer, billionaire CEO, philanthropist, a woman who'd built empires, sat there abandoned, facing criminal charges that could destroy everything. The judge was about to rule by default. Then a voice came from the back. Everyone turned. It was Nathan Reed, the courthouse janitor, still holding his mop. But before we find out what happens next, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story like this. Drop a comment below telling us where you're listening from. Now, let me tell you how Nathan ended up here. 3 months earlier, Nathan Reed was mopping the third-floor hallway of the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse when he overheard a conversation he wasn't supposed to hear. "Samantha Mercer is going down," a voice said from inside conference room 3C. Nathan recognized it. Christopher Dalton, a defense attorney who'd recently left private practice to work for the DA's office. "We've got her on securities fraud, tax evasion, and wire fraud. The evidence is bulletproof." "She'll never see it coming," another voice replied. "Her company's already losing value. Once we arrest her, Mercer Industries will collapse. The buyout can proceed at 20 cents on the dollar." Nathan kept mopping, but his mind was racing. He'd heard about Samantha Mercer. Everyone had. She'd built Mercer Industries from nothing, turned it into a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, used her fortune to fund schools and hospitals and community programs. She was one of the few billionaires people actually respected, and they were framing her. Nathan finished mopping and pushed his cart past the conference room. Through the small window in the door, he saw Christopher Dalton and 2 other men he didn't recognize, reviewing documents, laughing like they'd already won. Nathan went home to his daughter that night thinking about what he'd heard. His apartment in the Bronx was small, 1 bedroom for Kinsley, a fold-out couch in the living room for him, a kitchen barely big enough for 2 people. But it was home. It was what he could afford on a janitor's salary. Kinsley, 10 years old with wild, curly brown hair and her mother's bright smile, was already asleep when he got in at 11 p.m. Mrs. Rodriguez from next door had stayed with her like she did most nights. Nathan paid her what he could, thanked her profusely, and locked the door behind her. He sat at their tiny kitchen table with a cup of instant coffee and thought about Samantha Mercer. 8 years ago, Nathan had been someone different. He'd graduated from Columbia Law, passed the bar, had a job lined up at a mid-tier firm doing contract law. Nothing glamorous but stable, a future. He'd been married to Emma, the love of his life, with a 2-year-old daughter who was everything to him. Then Emma got sick. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Their insurance denied the experimental treatment protocol that might have saved her. Nathan fought the insurance company, fought the hospital billing department, fought everyone he could. He missed work fighting those battles. He got fired for absenteeism. Emma died 3 months later, leaving him with a toddler, crushing medical debt, and no way to pay for it. The law firm job offer vanished. Nobody wanted to hire a first-year associate with that kind of personal baggage. Nathan applied everywhere. 50 firms, 100 firms, nothing. So he took what he could get. Janitor at the courthouse. Night shift because it paid slightly more, and because Kinsley could sleep through it with Mrs. Rodriguez watching her. For 8 years, Nathan had cleaned floors, emptied trash, scrubbed bathrooms. For 8 years, he'd watched lawyers and judges and prosecutors walk past him like he was invisible, like cleaning up their garbage made him beneath notice. But he'd also read every case file left in conference rooms, every legal brief accidentally thrown in the recycling. Every motion, every deposition, every bit of legal strategy he could access. Nathan studied law the way he'd studied for the bar, obsessively, desperately, hoping someday it would matter again. Now he'd overheard a conspiracy to destroy an innocent woman, and he had to decide what to do about it. The next morning, Nathan did something crazy. He called Mercer Industries' main office. "I need to speak with Ms. Mercer," he told the receptionist. "It's urgent. It's about a legal threat to her company." "Ms. Mercer doesn't take unsolicited calls. If you have legal concerns, please direct them to our general counsel." "Your general counsel can't help with this. Please, just tell her someone has information about a criminal case being built against her. Tell her to meet me somewhere public. I'll prove I'm legitimate." The receptionist hung up on him. Nathan tried again, and again. Each time he got nowhere. Samantha Mercer was insulated by layers of assistance and security and corporate bureaucracy. A janitor couldn't just call and warn her about a conspiracy, so Nathan tried a different approach. He started documenting everything, every conversation he overheard between Christopher Dalton and his co-conspirators, every document he found in the trash that hinted at the frame-up, every detail he could gather about the false charges being prepared. He kept a notebook, a cheap, spiral-bound thing he carried in his maintenance cart, and wrote down dates, times, names, specifics. If he couldn't warn Samantha Mercer directly, he could at least build a record of the truth. 3 weeks later, federal agents arrested Samantha Mercer at her office. Nathan saw it on the news that night. Perp walk, handcuffs, cameras everywhere. Samantha Mercer, elegant, composed, clearly shocked, being led out of her own building while reporters shouted questions. "Ms. Mercer, did you defraud your investors? Is it true you evaded $30 million in taxes? How do you respond to charges of wire fraud?" Samantha said nothing, her face a mask of controlled fury and disbelief. The news anchor explained, Samantha Mercer was being charged with multiple counts of securities fraud, tax evasion, and wire fraud. If convicted, she faced 20 years in federal prison. The evidence, according to the DA's office, was overwhelming and indisputable. Kinsley looked up from her homework. "Dad, isn't that the lady who built the new library at school?" "Yeah, baby, that's her." "Why are they arresting her?" "Because they think she did something wrong." "Did she?" Nathan looked at his daughter's trusting face. "No, sweetheart, I don't think she did." Over the next 2 months, Nathan watched Samantha Mercer's life disintegrate on the news. Mercer Industries' stock plummeted. Board members resigned. Investors pulled funding. Business partners severed contracts. Her reputation, built over 20 years of hard work and integrity, was shredded in weeks. Her defense attorney, Marcus Whitfield, was one of the best in New York. Expensive, connected, ruthless. He promised to clear her name, to prove the charges were baseless. Nathan kept documenting the conspiracy. He'd learned that the 2 men meeting with Christopher Dalton were executives from Titanium Holdings, a private equity firm that had tried unsuccessfully to buy Mercer Industries 3 times. Samantha had refused to sell, so they'd decided to destroy her company's value and buy it cheap from the wreckage. Christopher Dalton was the inside man, the prosecutor who'd manufacture the case, make sure evidence was twisted, ensure Samantha couldn't defend herself. In exchange, Dalton would get a 7-figure consulting position at Titanium Holdings after Samantha was convicted. It was elegant, it was vicious, and it was working perfectly. Nathan tried again to reach Samantha's legal team. He called Marcus Whitfield's office, explained he had evidence of prosecutorial misconduct, of a conspiracy to frame Samantha Mercer. "Mr. Reed," Whitfield's assistant said coldly, "if you have evidence, submit it through proper channels. Don't waste our time with phone calls." "I work at the courthouse. I overhear things. Please just let me—" She hung up. Nathan tried to submit his evidence through proper channels. He contacted the public defender's office, the Bar Association, even the FBI field office. Nobody would listen to a janitor claiming he'd uncovered a massive conspiracy. They treated him like a crank, a conspiracy theorist, someone whose story was too convenient to believe. Meanwhile, Samantha's trial date approached. Nathan attended pre-trial hearings during his breaks, standing in the back of the courtroom in his maintenance uniform, watching the prosecution systematically dismantle Samantha's defense. Christopher Dalton was brilliant in court, charismatic, convincing, presenting falsified evidence so smoothly that even Nathan, who knew it was fake, almost believed it. Financial records that had been altered, testimony from witnesses who were clearly coached, documents that supposedly proved Samantha had deliberately defrauded investors, when Nathan knew those documents had been created by Dalton's team specifically for this case. Samantha sat at the defense table beside Marcus Whitfield, her face growing more drawn with each hearing, her confidence visibly cracking as she realized how bad things looked. Nathan wanted to shout the truth, but he was nobody, a janitor. Who would believe him? The trial began on a cold Monday in March. Nathan watched from the back row as Christopher Dalton delivered his opening statement, painting Samantha Mercer as a greedy billionaire who'd lied and cheated her way to wealth, who'd betrayed her investors, who deserved to lose everything. Marcus Whitfield's defense was weak. He challenged the evidence but couldn't explain why it existed. He called character witnesses who testified to Samantha's integrity, but Dalton made them look naive, like people who'd been fooled by a master manipulator. The jury looked convinced. The judge looked skeptical of the defense. Even the court reporters seemed to have already decided Samantha was guilty. On the fourth day of trial, during a lunch recess, Nathan saw Marcus Whitfield in the courthouse hallway on his phone, arguing with someone. "I don't care what the optics are," Whitfield hissed. "This case is unwinnable. She's going down, and I'm not going down with her. My reputation." "Yes, I know what we agreed, but the retainer doesn't cover a conviction on my record. I'm done." Nathan's blood went cold. That afternoon, court reconvened. Christopher Dalton called his star witness, a forensic accountant who claimed to have found proof of Samantha's fraud buried in offshore accounts. The testimony was damning. The accountant presented charts, spreadsheets, account numbers, all showing that Samantha had deliberately hidden income and misled investors. Nathan knew it was fabricated. He'd found drafts of this testimony in Christopher Dalton's trash 3 weeks ago, complete with handwritten notes on how to make the lies sound convincing, but he had no way to prove it, no way to stop it. Then Marcus Whitfield stood up. "Your Honor, I need to address the court." The judge nodded. "Proceed, Counselor." "Your Honor, after careful consideration, I can no longer in good conscience continue as counsel for the defendant. I'm filing a motion to withdraw from this case, effective immediately." The courtroom erupted. The judge banged his gavel. Samantha Mercer's face went white with shock. "You can't be serious," the judge said. "I am, Your Honor. I've provided my formal motion to the clerk. My ethical obligations prevent me from continuing representation in this matter." It was a lie. Whitfield's ethical obligations were about protecting his reputation. He was abandoning Samantha to save himself. "Ms. Mercer," the judge said, "do you have backup counsel?" Samantha looked shell-shocked. "No, Your Honor. Mr. Whitfield was handling everything. I don't understand what's happening." "I'm granting Mr. Whitfield's motion to withdraw," the judge said reluctantly. "Ms. Mercer, you have the right to legal representation. I can appoint a public defender, or we can recess for you to retain new counsel, though I warn you this will significantly delay." "Your Honor," Christopher Dalton interrupted smoothly, "the prosecution objects to further delays. Ms. Mercer has had months to prepare her defense. If her attorney chooses to withdraw, that's her problem, not the court's. We move to proceed." "This is outrageous," Samantha said, her voice shaking. "You can't expect me to defend myself without a lawyer against these false charges." "False charges?" Dalton shot back. "Your Honor, the defendant's counsel withdrew because even he couldn't defend her actions with a straight face. The evidence speaks for itself. Let's proceed to verdict." The judge looked torn. "Ms. Mercer, without counsel, I have no choice but to—" "Your Honor," a voice called from the back of the courtroom, "I will defend her." Every head turned. Nathan Reed stood up from the back row, still wearing his maintenance uniform. Blue work shirt, name tag, keys jangling from his belt. The courtroom fell silent. "Who are you?" the judge demanded. "Nathan Reed, Your Honor. I'm a member of the New York State Bar. I'm offering to serve as counsel for Ms. Mercer." Christopher Dalton laughed. "Your Honor, this is absurd. He's wearing a janitor's uniform. This is obviously some kind of stunt." "I passed the bar 8 years ago," Nathan said firmly, walking toward the front of the courtroom. Every eye followed him. "I'm in good standing. I have the right to practice law in this state, and Ms. Mercer has the right to counsel, unless you'd like me to file an appeal based on denial of that right." The judge stared at him. "You're serious?" "Completely serious, Your Honor." Samantha Mercer looked at Nathan like he was crazy. "I don't even know you." "No, ma'am, you don't. But I know you're innocent, and I know how to prove it." Nathan met her eyes. "Trust me." "This is insane," Dalton sputtered. "Your Honor, you can't allow—" "Actually, Mr. Dalton, I can. The defendant has the constitutional right to counsel of her choosing. If she accepts Mr. Reed's representation, and if he's legitimately a member of the bar, I have no grounds to refuse." The judge looked at Nathan. "Are you prepared to proceed immediately?" "Yes, Your Honor." "Ms. Mercer, do you accept Mr. Reed as your attorney?" Samantha looked at Nathan, this stranger in a janitor's uniform who'd just upended her trial, and made a split-second decision based on pure desperation and the tiniest flicker of hope in his eyes. "Yes," she said, "I accept." The judge banged his gavel. "Very well, Mr. Reed, you're now counsel of record. We'll recess for 20 minutes to allow you to confer with your client. Court will resume at 3 p.m. Nathan sat down next to Samantha at the defense table as the courtroom cleared. "Are you insane?" Samantha whispered furiously. "You're a janitor. What makes you think you can defend me against Christopher Dalton?" "I'm a lawyer who works as a janitor," Nathan corrected. "And I can defend you because I have something Dalton doesn't." "What?" "The truth." Nathan pulled out his spiral notebook, worn and full of his cramped handwriting. "For 2 months I've been documenting a conspiracy to frame you. Christopher Dalton, Titanium Holdings executives, falsified evidence, coached witnesses, all of it. I know how they built this case. I know where the lies are, and I know how to take it apart." Samantha stared at him. "Why would you do this? Why would you risk everything for someone you don't even know?" Nathan thought about Emma, about medical debt and denied insurance claims and a broken system that destroyed good people, about 8 years of being invisible, watching injustice happen and having no power to stop it. "Because I couldn't save my wife when the system failed us," he said quietly. "But maybe I can save you." Samantha's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what to say." "Say you're ready to fight, because we've got 20 minutes to prepare a defense, and Dalton's not going to make this easy." They worked frantically through the recess. Nathan explained his evidence, the overheard conversations, the documents he'd found, the pattern of coordination between Dalton and Titanium Holdings. Samantha filled in gaps, explaining the legitimate business decisions that had been twisted into evidence of fraud. "The offshore accounts they claim I used to hide income," Samantha explained. "Those are legal holding companies for our international subsidiaries. Every transaction is documented and reported. But they cherry-picked transactions, removed context, made it look like I was hiding money when I was just running a global business. Can you prove that? With my company's full financial records, yes, but Whitfield never subpoenaed those. He relied on the limited records Dalton provided. Then we'll get the full records. We'll force Dalton to explain why he only showed the jury half the story. Court resumed. Christopher Dalton smirked at Nathan like this was a joke, like a janitor playing lawyer was the best thing that could have happened to the prosecution. He stopped smirking when Nathan started cross-examining the forensic accountant. "Mr. Harrison," Nathan began, "you testified that these offshore accounts show Ms. Mercer hiding income, but you only analyzed accounts ending in digits 2847, 2848, and 2849, correct?" "Yes." Mercer Industries operates in 17 countries through approximately 40 legal subsidiaries. How many of those subsidiaries' accounts did you analyze? Harrison hesitated. "The accounts provided to me by the prosecution." "That's not what I asked. How many total subsidiary accounts exist?" "I don't know." "You don't know. You're testifying about financial fraud, but you don't know how many accounts the company actually has." "I analyzed the relevant accounts." "Relevant as determined by whom?" "The prosecution." Nathan turned to the jury. "So the prosecution hand-picked 3 accounts out of 40, removed all context, and asked you to conclude fraud based on incomplete data." "Objection," Dalton called. "Argumentative." "Sustained," the judge said. "Rephrase, Mr. Reed." "Mr. Harrison, would a complete financial analysis require reviewing all subsidiary accounts, not just 3? "In theory, yes." "In theory." Nathan pulled out a document. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit Mercer Industries' complete subsidiary financial records, all 17 countries, all 40 accounts, showing every transaction for the last 5 years. This document was publicly filed with the SEC and available to anyone who bothered to look, including the prosecution." Dalton shot to his feet. "Your Honor, this is improper. These documents weren't part of discovery." "Because you deliberately excluded them," Nathan shot back. "They're public records. The prosecution had access and chose not to use them because they prove Ms. Mercer did nothing wrong." The judge examined the documents. "I'll allow it. Mr. Reed, approach the witness." Nathan handed the complete financial records to the accountant. "Mr. Harrison, looking at the complete records, do the 3 accounts you analyzed still appear fraudulent in context?" Harrison paged through hundreds of pages of financial data, his face gradually paling. I would need time to analyze. Let me help you. Those 3 accounts you flagged? They're standard international holding structures. The transactions you called hidden income are intercompany transfers, fully documented, completely legal, and reported on every SEC filing. You didn't find fraud. You found normal business operations presented dishonestly. The jury was watching now, paying attention. Nathan spent the next 2 hours systematically destroying the prosecution's case. Every piece of evidence Dalton had presented, Nathan provided context for. Every fraudulent transaction Nathan showed was legitimate. Every witness who claimed Samantha had lied, Nathan revealed had financial ties to Titanium Holdings. The conspiracy unraveled in real time. Christopher Dalton fought back hard, objecting constantly, trying to confuse the jury, but Nathan wouldn't be stopped. 8 years of reading case files, studying legal strategy, watching prosecutors work, it all came together. By the end of the day, the prosecution's case looked like what it was, a frame-up. The judge called a recess. "We'll resume tomorrow morning. Mr. Reed, impressive work for someone who just joined this case." "Thank you, Your Honor." Outside the courtroom, Samantha grabbed Nathan's arm. "Where did you learn to do that?" "Law school. And 8 years of watching lawyers make mistakes I knew I could avoid if anyone ever gave me a chance. Nathan smiled. You just gave me that chance. You're saving my life. Not yet, but we're getting there. That night, Nathan went home to Kinsley buzzing with adrenaline and terror. He'd just made enemies of powerful people. He'd exposed a conspiracy in open court. Christopher Dalton and Titanium Holdings wouldn't take this quietly, but something else was bothering him. As he rode the subway back to the Bronx, still in his maintenance uniform under his cheap suit jacket, he couldn't stop thinking about the look on Samantha's face when he'd dismantled the prosecution's case. Relief, yes, but also something else. Recognition, like she was seeing him, really seeing him, for the first time. Nathan wasn't naive. He knew what people would say. Janitor swoops in to save beautiful billionaire classic fairy tale. But this wasn't a fairy tale. This was real life, messy and complicated. Samantha was facing prison. Nathan was risking everything, and neither of them had any guarantee this would work. Mrs. Rodriguez met him at the door of his apartment, Kinsley already asleep inside. "I saw you on the news," Mrs. Rodriguez said in Spanish, her eyes wet. "Nathan, mijo, you were incredible, so brave." "I was terrified, Mrs. R. Bravery is being terrified and doing it anyway." She patted his cheek. "Emma would be so proud." After she left, Nathan stood in his tiny kitchen making instant coffee, thinking about Emma. She'd believed in him when nobody else did. She'd encouraged him through law school, through the bar exam, through every rejection and setback. She'd told him he was going to be a great lawyer someday. "I hope I am, Em," he whispered to the empty kitchen. "I hope I'm making you proud." "Dad, you're on the news," Kinsley called from the living room. Nathan walked in to see himself on TV, courthouse janitor turned lawyer, defending billionaire CEO in shocking trial reversal. The chyron read, "Who is Nathan Reed?" "That's so cool!" Kinsley bounced excitedly. "You're famous." "I'm really not, baby. You're on TV defending an innocent person. That's what lawyers are supposed to do, right?" Nathan hugged his daughter. "Yes, sweetheart. That's what we're supposed to do." The trial continued for 3 more days, but it wasn't smooth. On day 2, Nathan arrived at court to find his car had been vandalized. Tires slashed, windows smashed, a note on the windshield that read, "Drop the case." He took the subway instead. That afternoon, during a recess, a man in an expensive suit approached him in the courthouse hallway. "Mr. Reed," the man said smoothly, "my clients would like to offer you a settlement. Drop the defense. Convince Ms. Mercer to accept a plea deal, and you'll receive $2 million, tax-free, offshore account. No one ever needs to know." Nathan stared at him. "Your clients are trying to bribe me?" "My clients are offering you a business opportunity, $2 million. That's life-changing money for someone in your situation." "My situation? Janitor, single father, struggling to make ends meet. This trial is temporary, Mr. Reed. Samantha Mercer will still be rich when it's over, guilty or not. But you'll go back to mopping floors, unless you take this opportunity." Nathan felt rage building. "Tell your clients to go to hell. That's a lot of money to turn down for pride." "It's not pride, it's integrity. Now get out of my way before I report this to the judge." The man smiled coldly. "Suit yourself. But remember, you had a chance to make things easier." That night, Nathan found his apartment door unlocked. Nothing was stolen, but things had been moved, searched. Someone had been inside while he was at court. Kinsley was terrified. "Dad, who was here? What's happening?" Nathan called the police, but they couldn't do anything without proof of forced entry or theft. He installed a deadbolt himself that night, barricaded the door with a chair, barely slept. The next morning, back in court, he looked exhausted but determined. "You okay?" Samantha asked. They're trying to scare me. Nathan, if this is too dangerous, it's not. I'm seeing this through. He met her eyes. They want us scared. That means we're winning. Each day, Nathan dismantled more of the prosecution's case. He subpoenaed records from Titanium Holdings showing their attempted buyouts of Mercer Industries. 3 offers over 18 months, each one rejected, the final one just weeks before Samantha's arrest. He called witnesses who testified to Samantha's integrity, employees who'd worked for her for 20 years, community leaders whose programs she'd funded, business partners who'd trusted her with billions. He forced Christopher Dalton to explain why he'd withheld exculpatory evidence, why his witnesses all had financial ties to Titanium Holdings, why the prosecution's timeline didn't match actual events. On the witness stand, under Nathan's cross-examination, Dalton cracked. You left private practice to join the DA's office 8 months ago, correct? Yes. And you were immediately assigned to the Mercer case. I volunteered for it. High-profile cases advance careers, or lucrative consulting positions. Nathan submitted a document. Your Honor, emails between Mr. Dalton and Titanium Holdings executives discussing his compensation package contingent on Ms. Mercer's conviction. 7 figures. Paid by the same company trying to buy Mercer Industries. The courtroom exploded. The judge demanded order. Dalton's face went red. You fabricated this case, Nathan said coldly. You manufactured evidence, coached witnesses, and conspired with Titanium Holdings to destroy an innocent woman so they could buy her company cheap. You didn't prosecute Samantha Mercer. You framed her. That's a lie. Then explain the emails. Explain why you withheld the complete financial records. Explain why every witness you called has financial ties to Titanium Holdings. Nathan leaned forward. You can't, because you're not a prosecutor seeking justice. You're a criminal who weaponized the legal system. The jury deliberated for 2 hours. Verdict: not guilty on all counts. Samantha Mercer collapsed in her chair, sobbing with relief. The courtroom erupted in applause, rare in a criminal trial, but people had watched Nathan take apart a conspiracy in real time. They'd seen justice actually happen. Christopher Dalton was arrested the next day. Federal investigators opened cases into Titanium Holdings executives. Marcus Whitfield was disbarred for abandoning a client in trial. The whole conspiracy collapsed. Samantha found Nathan outside the courthouse after the verdict, both of them exhausted and overwhelmed. Thank you, she said, and meant it more than she'd ever meant anything. You're welcome. What happens now, for you? Nathan shrugged. I go back to mopping floors, I guess. Kinsley needs dinner. Mrs. Rodriguez probably wants to go home. Nathan, you can't be serious. You just saved my life, my company, my reputation. You exposed a conspiracy. You're a brilliant lawyer. I'm a janitor with a law degree. Nobody's going to hire me to practice law after 8 years away. I will. Samantha met his eyes. Come work for me. Mercer Industries needs a general counsel I can actually trust. Someone who fights for what's right, not what's profitable. Someone who risked everything for a stranger because it was the right thing to do. Nathan stared at her. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a career. The career you should have had 8 years ago if the system hadn't failed you. Samantha smiled. I owe you everything. Let me give you something back. Nathan thought about mopping floors, about being invisible, about Kinsley growing up watching her father settle for less because he'd lost hope. Okay, he said. Yes, I'll take the job. Kinsley cried happy tears when he told her. Mrs. Rodriguez hugged him. Even the other janitors at the courthouse celebrated. One of their own had made it out. Nathan started at Mercer Industries the following month. Real office, real salary, Real work doing what he'd trained for. He rebuilt his legal career from scratch, working harder than anyone, proving he deserved the chance Samantha had given him. But starting wasn't easy. On his first day, Nathan walked into Mercer Industries' legal department to find 12 attorneys staring at him with obvious skepticism. "This is Nathan Reed, our new general counsel," Samantha introduced him to the team. "He'll be overseeing all legal operations and reporting directly to me." After she left, the head of corporate litigation, a woman named Patricia Chen, who'd been with the company 15 years, approached Nathan's new office. "No offense, Mr. Reed," Patricia said coldly, "but we all have 10, 15, 20 years of experience practicing corporate law. You've been a janitor for 8 years. What makes you qualified to lead this department?" Nathan had expected this. "You're right to question it. I haven't practiced law in 8 years. I'm behind on recent case law, corporate compliance changes, new regulations. I have a lot to catch up on. So why should we follow your leadership? Because I saved this company from destruction. Because I see patterns others miss. Because I fought a conspiracy with 20 minutes of prep time and won." Nathan met her eyes. "I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to judge me by my work. Give me 3 months. If I'm not doing the job well, tell Samantha. She'll fire me. She's done it before." Patricia studied him for a long moment. 3 months, but I'm watching. I'd expect nothing less." Over the next 3 months, Nathan proved himself. He reorganized the legal department's workflow, implementing systems he'd seen work in other companies during his years reading case files. He personally reviewed every major contract, catching loopholes and risks the other attorneys had missed. When a former investor tried to sue Mercer Industries based on the false fraud charges, Nathan crushed the lawsuit with a motion to dismiss so thoroughly argued that the judge sanctioned the plaintiff's lawyer for filing a frivolous claim. Patricia came to his office on day 90. "I was wrong about you," she said simply. "You're not just qualified. You're excellent. I'm sorry I doubted you." "Don't be. You were protecting your team. That's what a good lawyer does." From then on, the legal department followed Nathan's lead without question. But the company's problems were far from over. Mercer Industries' reputation had been shredded by the trial. Even though Samantha had been acquitted, the damage lingered. "Where there's smoke, there's fire," people whispered. Investors remained skeptical. Business partners demanded extra assurances. Every deal took twice as long to close because people didn't trust Mercer Industries anymore. Nathan and Samantha worked 70, 80-hour weeks, trying to rebuild what Christopher Dalton and Titanium Holdings had destroyed. They met with investors, reassured business partners, renegotiated contracts, personally guaranteed performance on deals. Slowly, painfully, trust began to return. But something else was developing too. Samantha and Nathan worked closely together as she rebuilt her company's reputation and he overhauled their legal department. Long hours, intense pressure, shared purpose. They'd been through fire together. That created a bond. They started having lunch together, working lunches at first, reviewing contracts and strategy, but gradually becoming more personal. Nathan learned that Samantha had built Mercer Industries from almost nothing after her father's small manufacturing company nearly went bankrupt. She'd been 26, just out of business school, when her father had a heart attack and left her with a failing company and crushing debt. "Everyone told me to sell," Samantha explained over Thai food in her office. "Cut my losses, take what I could get." But I couldn't. My father had spent 30 years building that company. I wasn't going to let it die because I was scared. "So you saved it." "I transformed it. Took us into new markets, acquired struggling companies and turned them around. Built something my father never imagined. It took 20 years, but I did it." "And then Dalton tried to take it all away." Not just take it, destroy it. Buying it for 20 cents on the dollar after my reputation was ruined. It was personal. Samantha met Nathan's eyes. That's why what you did mattered so much. You didn't just save my company. You saved my father's legacy. Nathan shared his own story more slowly, more painfully. He told Samantha about Emma, how they'd met in college, how she'd supported him through law school, how she'd been his best friend and the love of his life, how pancreatic cancer had stolen her in 6 brutal months. The insurance company denied the experimental treatment, Nathan said quietly one late night, both of them exhausted from a week of crisis management. Said it wasn't medically necessary because the survival rate was low, but it was her only chance. I fought them. I filed appeals, hired a lawyer, threatened to sue. Nothing worked. That's why you became a janitor. Medical debt. Crushing medical debt. The hospital still charged us for everything, even though the treatment didn't happen. Emma's funeral. Kinsley's childcare while I was at the hospital. I lost my job because I was missing work fighting the insurance company. The law firm offer evaporated. No one else would hire me. Nathan rubbed his face. I sold everything we owned. Moved to the cheapest apartment I could find. Took the only job that would pay enough to cover rent and Mrs. Rodriguez. You could have declared bankruptcy. I thought about it, but Emma's hospital bills, I couldn't. It felt like I'd be abandoning her memory, like I'd be saying her life wasn't worth the cost. Nathan laughed bitterly. Stupid, maybe, but I couldn't do it. Samantha reached across the desk and took his hand. It's not stupid. It's love. Something shifted between them in that moment. Not romantic, not yet, but deeper than friendship. Recognition. 2 people who'd both lost everything, who'd both fought systems designed to destroy them, who'd both refused to give up even when giving up would have been easier. 6 months after the trial, Nathan was working late in his office when Samantha knocked on his door. Still here? She asked. Contract review for the Singapore acquisition. You? Board materials for tomorrow. Samantha sat down across from his desk. Can I ask you something personal? Sure. Why did you really do it? Risk everything to defend me. You didn't know me. You had every reason to stay invisible and safe. Nathan thought about how to answer. My wife died because our insurance company denied coverage for the treatment that could have saved her. I fought them. I lost. I lost everything. My wife, my career, my future. For 8 years I've been invisible, powerless, watching injustice happen and being unable to stop it. He met Samantha's eyes. Then I overheard them planning to destroy you, and I realized I had a choice. I could stay invisible and safe, or I could fight. I could let injustice win again, or I could try to stop it. Nathan smiled sadly. I couldn't save Emma, but maybe I could save you. Samantha's eyes were wet. I'm sorry about your wife. Me too. She'd be proud of you, for not giving up, for fighting even when it was terrifying. I hope so. I tell Kinsley about her mom all the time, about how brave she was, how kind. I want Kinsley to know she comes from strength. She comes from you too. That's strength. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Samantha asked, Are you seeing anyone? Nathan laughed. When would I have time? I work 80 hours a week, and the other 88 I'm with Kinsley. That's not a no. It's a, I haven't dated since Emma died, and I wouldn't know how to start. Maybe start with coffee, Samantha suggested. Tomorrow morning, before work. Just 2 people who've been through hell together, talking about something other than contracts and litigation. Nathan looked at her. Brilliant, fierce, kind Samantha who'd given him his career back, who trusted him, who'd become his closest friend over 6 months of rebuilding both their lives. Okay, he said. Coffee sounds good. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into dinner. Dinner turned into Samantha meeting Kinsley, which terrified Nathan but went beautifully. Kinsley adored her. Samantha was patient and funny and genuine. "I like her, Dad," Kinsley said after their first dinner together. "She's really smart, and she looks at you like Mum used to." Nathan's heart stuttered. "What do you mean?" "Like you're the most important person in the world. Mum always looked at you like that." Nathan and Samantha dated for a year before he proposed. It wasn't rushed. Both of them had been through too much to take anything lightly. But it was right. He proposed in the courthouse where they'd met, in the same courtroom where he'd stood up and declared he would defend her. It was empty, late at night, just the two of them. "This is where my life restarted," Nathan said, down on one knee, "where I stopped being invisible, where I found purpose again, and where I met you." He pulled out a ring. "I love you, Samantha. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me?" "Yes," she said, crying and laughing. "Absolutely yes." They married 6 months later. Kinsley was the flower girl, beaming with pride. Mrs. Rodriguez cried in the front row. Even some of Nathan's former janitor colleagues attended, thrilled to see him happy. Life became something Nathan had stopped believing was possible: partnership, love, stability, joy. He was general counsel at Mercer Industries, respected and valued. Kinsley was thriving in a good school, confident and smart. Samantha was rebuilding her company's reputation, stronger than before. But it wasn't all perfect. Real life never is. 2 years into the marriage, Nathan and Samantha had their first serious fight. It started when Nathan discovered Samantha was being sued by a former business partner, claiming she'd violated a non-compete agreement. The lawsuit was frivolous, but it required a response. "I'll handle it," Nathan said. "You're too close to this," Samantha argued. "We should hire outside counsel." "I'm literally your general counsel. This is my job. And you're also my husband. That creates a conflict." "Not if I do my job professionally, which I always do." "Nathan, I don't want our marriage tied up in my business problems. That's not fair to you or Kinsley." "Fair?" "Samantha, I built my career defending you. My entire professional life is tied to your business. You don't get to suddenly decide that's a problem." The argument escalated. Old insecurities surfaced. Nathan feeling like Samantha didn't trust his professional judgment. Samantha feeling like Nathan didn't understand the pressure of running a billion-dollar company with constant legal threats. "Maybe this was a mistake," Nathan said in frustration, "mixing business and personal. Maybe you should have just paid me for the trial and we should have stayed strangers." Samantha went pale. "Do you really believe that?" Nathan immediately regretted it. "No. God, no. I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "I can't lose you, Nathan. I lost everything once already. If I lose you—" "You're not losing me. I'm just scared, okay? I'm scared of screwing up at work and damaging us at home. I'm scared that everything I've built will collapse again." Samantha took a shaky breath. "And I'm scared of needing you so much. I built my company alone. I survived that trial alone until you showed up. I'm not good at depending on people." They stood there, both scared, both realizing that marriage wasn't just about love. It was about vulnerability, trust, choosing each other even when it was hard. "We'll hire outside counsel for the lawsuit," Nathan said finally. "You're right. I'm too close." "And I'll trust your judgment more," Samantha countered. "You've earned that." "I'm sorry I made you feel like you hadn't." They worked through it. The lawsuit was dismissed. Nathan and Samantha learned to communicate better, to separate business from personal, to protect their relationship even when work was stressful. The fights still happened. They were two strong-willed people building a life together, but they got better at them, better at listening, better at remembering what mattered. But the biggest adjustment was Kinsley. She was 12 when Nathan and Samantha got married, old enough to understand what it meant, young enough to still need parenting. And Samantha had never been a parent before. "I don't know how to do this," Samantha admitted to Nathan one night, 3 months after the wedding. Kinsley had come home from school crying because a girl had made fun of her for having 2 moms now, a cruel misunderstanding that Kinsley was replacing Emma with Samantha. "Nobody knows how to do this," Nathan said. "We figure it out together. But you're her dad. You've been doing this for 10 years. I'm the woman who married her father. I don't know what I'm supposed to be to her." Nathan took Samantha's hands. "You're supposed to be yourself. Kinsley doesn't need you to replace Emma. She needs you to be Samantha, brilliant, kind, someone who cares about her. What if I'm not good at it? Then you'll learn, like everything else you've ever done." Samantha tried. She went to Kinsley's school events, helped with homework, learned about her interests, but it was awkward at first. Kinsley was polite but distant, clearly still figuring out where Samantha fit in her life. The breakthrough came 6 months after the wedding. Kinsley was working on a school project about inspirational women. She interviewed Samantha for it, asking about building Mercer Industries, about the trial, about what it was like being a woman in business. "Why didn't you give up?" Kinsley asked. "When they arrested you and everyone believed you were guilty, why keep fighting?" Samantha thought carefully before answering. "Because giving up would mean they won. It would mean all the lies became the truth. And I couldn't let that happen, not just for me, but for everyone who'd believed in me, everyone who'd worked for my company, everyone who'd depend on us in the future. Like my dad believed in you. Your dad saved me. He stood up when everyone else walked away." "He's good at that," Kinsley said quietly. "After my mom died, everyone else kind of left. Friends stopped calling. Family made excuses. People felt bad for us but didn't want to be around us. Like grief was contagious. But Dad never gave up. He kept going." Samantha felt her throat tighten. "He's the strongest person I've ever met. He says that about you. We're both pretty stubborn, I guess." Kinsley smiled, the first real smile she'd given Samantha since the wedding. "You're good for him. He's happier now. I can tell. He makes me happy too." "Good, because if you hurt him, I'll be really mad." Kinsley said it like a joke, but Samantha heard the protective edge underneath. "I won't," Samantha promised. "Your dad, both of you, you're my family now. I'm not going to mess that up." After that, things got easier. Kinsley started calling Samantha by her first name instead of Ms. Mercer. She asked Samantha for advice on things besides homework. She let Samantha come to her soccer games and actually seemed happy she was there. "She's starting to trust you," Nathan told Samantha after a particularly good week where Kinsley had voluntarily spent a whole Saturday helping Samantha reorganize her home office. "It only took a year," Samantha joked. "She's 12. Trust takes time, especially after losing her mom. I'm never going to be Emma." "No, you're not. You're Samantha. That's more than enough." 5 years after the trial, Kinsley was 15 and already talking about studying law. She wanted to be like her dad, fighting for justice, defending people who needed help. But being 15 also meant new challenges. Kinsley came home one day with a black eye from a fight at school. "What happened?" Nathan demanded, checking her face. "Tyler Morrison said you only got your job because you're married to a billionaire. Said you're using Samantha for money. I told him to shut up. He didn't." Nathan's heart sank. "Kinsley, you can't solve problems by fighting." "I wasn't going to let him say that about you. Or Samantha. It's not true." "No, it's not. But fighting doesn't prove that." "Then what does?" "Living our truth. Being good people. Showing through our actions that what people say doesn't matter. Kinsley wiped angry tears. But it does matter. People think you're a gold digger. They think Samantha only hired you because of the trial. They think we're all fake. Samantha, who'd arrived home during this conversation, knelt down in front of Kinsley. Let them think whatever they want. We know the truth. Your dad is brilliant at his job. He's saved this company millions of dollars. He's respected by everyone who works with him. The people whose opinions actually matter, they know his worth. But what about the people who don't? Those people don't matter, Samantha said firmly. Your dad taught me that. When I was on trial, people thought I was guilty. Strangers hated me without knowing me. If I'd cared about what everyone thought, I'd have given up. But I cared about the truth, and your dad helped me prove it. Kinsley thought about that. I'm still suspended for a week, aren't I? 2 weeks, Nathan said, because violence isn't the answer, no matter how angry you are. Fair. Those 2 weeks, Kinsley spent working with Nathan at Mercer Industries, doing filing and administrative work. She saw how hard he worked, how respected he was by the staff, how Samantha relied on his judgment. You really are good at this, Kinsley told him one afternoon, after sitting in on a meeting where Nathan had negotiated a complex licensing agreement. I've had good teachers, and a second chance I almost didn't get. Because of Samantha. Because I stood up when it mattered. Samantha gave me the opportunity, but I had to prove I deserved it. Do I have to prove I deserve to be your daughter? Nathan looked at her in shock. Kinsley, what? No, never. But everyone thinks I'm only okay because you got lucky, because Samantha saved us, like we were charity cases. We were struggling, that's not shameful. And yes, Samantha helped us, but we helped her too. We're family, that's what family does. Kinsley hugged him tightly. I'm glad she's my family. Me too, baby, me too. 5 years after the trial, Kinsley was 15 and already talking about studying law. She wanted to be like her dad, fighting for justice, defending people who needed help. I want to work at the Innocence Project, she told them over dinner one night. Freeing people who were wrongfully convicted, like you freed Samantha, Dad. Technically, I prevented her from being wrongfully convicted, Nathan corrected, smiling. Same concept, using law to fight injustice. Kinsley looked serious. You showed me that's what lawyers should do, not just make money, actually help people. Nathan glanced at Samantha, both of them proud and terrified of raising a daughter with such fierce principles. Then that's what you should do, Samantha said. We'll support you. Kinsley went to Columbia Law, same as Nathan. She graduated top of her class. She clerked for a federal judge, then joined the Innocence Project, working brutal hours for minimal pay, freeing people who'd been failed by the system. She was brilliant. She was relentless. She was everything Nathan and Samantha had hoped she'd become. But before Kinsley graduated, Nathan and Samantha started something else, something that mattered deeply to both of them. It began 5 years after the trial, when Nathan attended a bar association event and met a young woman named Maria Santos. She was working as a paralegal while studying for the bar exam, her third attempt after failing twice. It's the test fees, she explained to Nathan over coffee at the event. Every time I fail, that's another $250 I don't have, plus the bar prep courses, the study materials. I'm working 50 hours a week to pay rent. I barely have time to study. Nathan knew that story intimately. He'd lived it in a different way. That night he told Samantha about Maria. There are thousands of people like her, Nathan said. People with law degrees who can't afford to practice. People who work service jobs because medical debt destroyed their careers. People who'd be incredible lawyers if someone gave them a chance. Like someone gave you a chance, Samantha said quietly. Exactly like that. so let's do something about it. They created the Second Chances Legal Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to helping lawyers who'd fallen through the cracks. The foundation paid bar exam fees, provided free prep courses, offered stipends for living expenses while people studied. But more than that, it partnered with law firms and corporations to place these lawyers in positions where they could rebuild their careers. Maria Santos was their first recipient. She passed the bar on her fourth attempt and was hired by a mid-sized firm doing immigration law. 2 years later, she won a landmark case protecting asylum seekers. "You changed my life," Maria told Nathan and Samantha at the foundation's second annual fundraiser. "I would have given up, but you believed in me." "Someone believed in us too," Nathan said. "We're just paying it forward." The foundation grew. Over 5 years, they helped 127 lawyers restart their careers. They funded bar exam attempts, paid off crushing debts, connected talented people with opportunities they'd never have found alone. One recipient was a former prosecutor who'd been disbarred after blowing the whistle on corruption in his office. The foundation helped him get reinstated and placed him at a legal aid clinic where he defended the people he'd once prosecuted. Another was a woman who'd left law to care for her dying parents, then couldn't get hired after being away for 6 years. The foundation placed her at Mercer Industries' legal department, where she became one of Nathan's best attorneys. "You're creating an army of grateful lawyers," Patricia Chen joked at one foundation board meeting. "People who'll never forget what you did for them." "We're creating a system that should have existed all along," Samantha corrected. "Nobody should have to choose between survival and their career. Nobody should be invisible because they had medical debt or family obligations or bad luck." "You're talking about Nathan," Patricia said gently. "I'm talking about thousands of Nathans, talented people the system threw away because they didn't fit the traditional path." Samantha looked at Nathan across the conference room, both of them remembering the janitor in the maintenance uniform who'd saved her life. "We almost lost one of the best lawyers I've ever known because he couldn't afford to practice. How many others did we lose? How much justice never happened because good people were mopping floors instead of arguing cases?" The foundation became Nathan and Samantha's shared purpose outside of Mercer Industries. They fundraised, recruited partner firms, personally mentored foundation recipients. It was exhausting, time-consuming work on top of their demanding careers. But it mattered. "This is your legacy," Nathan told Samantha one night, both of them reviewing applications from lawyers seeking the foundation's help. "Not just Mercer Industries. This." "It's our legacy," Samantha corrected. "You're the one who knew what these people needed. I'm just providing resources." "You're providing hope. That's bigger than resources." Kinsley went to Columbia Law, same as Nathan. She graduated top of her class. She clerked for a federal judge, then joined the Innocence Project, working brutal hours for minimal pay, freeing people who'd been failed by the system. But she also volunteered with the Second Chances Legal Foundation, mentoring younger recipients, sharing her parents' story, inspiring others to keep fighting even when the system felt impossible. She was brilliant. She was relentless. She was everything Nathan and Samantha had hoped she'd become. 10 years after the trial, Nathan and Samantha returned to the courthouse. They were both different now. Nathan no longer wearing a janitor's uniform but a tailored suit. Samantha no longer facing false charges but testifying before Congress on criminal justice reform. They stood in the hallway where Nathan had first overheard the conspiracy, where everything had started. "Hard to believe it's been 10 years, Samantha said. "Hard to believe I almost didn't say anything. I almost let you go down without a fight. But you didn't. You risked everything. You stood up when everyone else walked away." Nathan took her hand. "Best decision I ever made." They walked past the courtroom where Nathan had declared, "I will defend her." The room was empty now, but Nathan could still see that moment. Samantha abandoned, the judge about to rule, everyone assuming her guilt. And Nathan standing up, terrified but determined, offering to fight. "You changed my life that day," Samantha said. "I was alone, facing prison, watching everything I'd built collapse. Then you stood up. This stranger in a janitor's uniform who refused to let injustice win. You gave me my life back," Nathan countered. "I was invisible, broken, working a job I hated, believing I'd never practice law again. You trusted me when nobody else would. You gave me a second chance." "We gave each other second chances." "Yeah, we did." Outside, they ran into Marcus Whitfield's replacement, a young public defender named Jason who'd heard the story of Nathan's defense of Samantha and had been inspired to go into criminal defense. "Mr. Reed," Jason said, starstruck, "I studied your trial in law school. The way you dismantled that conspiracy with limited prep time, it's taught as a masterclass in criminal defense." Nathan smiled. "You don't need to call me Mr. Reed. Nathan's fine." "You're a legend, Nathan. Every public defender in the city knows your story. Janitor who became a hero lawyer. It gives us hope." After Jason left, Samantha laughed. "You're a legend. I'm just a guy who did the right thing when it mattered. That's what makes you a legend." They drove to their home in Manhattan. Not the tiny Bronx apartment anymore, but a real house with space for Kinsley's room and Nathan's home office, and a backyard where they had coffee on Sunday mornings. Mrs. Rodriguez still lived next door. Nathan had bought her the apartment when he could afford it, repaying her for years of watching Kinsley with generosity she'd always refused. She was family now. Kinsley was 20 now, working at the Innocence Project, already making a name for herself. She'd freed 3 wrongfully convicted people in her first 2 years. She was fearless. "She gets that from you," Samantha told Nathan one night, both of them watching Kinsley on the news discussing a case she'd won. "She gets it from all of us, from Emma's determination, from your fierce integrity, from Mrs. Rodriguez's stubborn kindness." Nathan pulled Samantha close. "She's everything we hoped she'd be." Life had become what Nathan had stopped believing was possible. Meaningful work, genuine partnership, a daughter who would change the world, and a marriage built on mutual respect and shared purpose. But the moment Nathan treasured most happened 5 years after their wedding. They were at a legal aid fundraiser, Samantha giving a speech about criminal justice reform, Nathan beside her on stage. Kinsley was in the audience, 17 and already planning her law school applications. Samantha talked about her trial, about being abandoned by her lawyer, about Nathan standing up to defend her. Then she said something Nathan hadn't heard before. "Nathan saved my life that day in court, but what he really saved was my faith that good people still exist, that justice is still possible, that one person willing to fight can change everything." Samantha looked at him. "I was drowning in a system designed to destroy me. Nathan threw me a lifeline when he had every reason to stay safe and invisible. He risked everything for a stranger. That's not just heroism, that's love. Love for justice, for truth, for basic human decency." The audience applauded. Nathan felt tears in his eyes. After the speech, Kinsley ran up to them. "Dad, that was amazing. Samantha, you made everyone cry." "Your father made me cry first," Samantha said, smiling. "For 10 years, he's been the reason I believe in second chances." Nathan hugged them both, his daughter and his wife, the 2 people who made everything worthwhile. Later that night, alone in their bedroom, Samantha asked, "Do you ever regret it? Standing up that day, everything that came after?" Nathan thought about the risks he'd taken, the enemies he'd made, the terror of defending someone with 0 preparation, the gamble that could have destroyed both their lives. "Not for 1 second," he said. You? Trusting the janitor in the maintenance uniform. Samantha kissed him. Best decision of my life. Even better than refusing to sell to Titanium Holdings. Especially better than that. They wanted to buy my company. You gave me a family. They lay there in the darkness. Two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and built something beautiful from the pieces. Somewhere in the Innocence Project offices, Kinsley worked late on a case, fighting for justice just like her parents taught her. Somewhere in federal prison, Christopher Dalton served his sentence, his conspiracy exposed, his reputation destroyed. Somewhere in Manhattan, young lawyers studied Nathan's trial defense, learning that courage and preparation could defeat corruption. And somewhere in the Bronx, new janitors cleaned courthouse floors at night, some of them with law degrees and broken dreams, hoping someday they'd get their second chance too. The story that started with, "I will defend her," became a story about standing up when everyone else walks away, about second chances that feel like first chances at really living, and about finding love in the least likely places. Nathan Reed had been a janitor who became a hero. Now he was a husband, a father, a general counsel, and a man who understood that justice isn't just about law. It's about people willing to fight for it when the cost is highest. Sometimes the best defense isn't about legal strategy. It's about courage.